Welcome to OPC Radio Connect, the podcast that connects you with the services and programs of the Office of the People's Counsel, the independent D.C. government agency that represents the interests of electric, natural gas, water, and local phone consumers, whose mission it is to advocate, educate, and protect district utility consumers. Now, here's your host, Sandra Mattavous-Frye, Director of the Office of the People's Counsel for the District of Columbia.
Welcome to OPC Radio Connect. This is the first in a series of interviews where we will introduce you to the people who are shaping the district's energy, climate, and sustainability future. In this episode, People's Counsel Sandra Mattavous-Frye talks with two dynamic women in energy.
I'm People's Counsel Sandra Mattavous-Frye. OPC is your utility lawyer. We advocate, educate, and protect. Our topic today is women in energy. My guests are two women who have climbed the ladder to success in the industry. Dr. Donna Cooper is the PEPCO Region President. She is responsible for enabling relations with stakeholders, including state and local officials, community leaders, local businesses and consumers, and nonprofit organizations within the PEPCO D.C., Maryland service area. My other guest is attorney Adrienne Clare. She is a partner with the Thompson Coburn Law Practice. Attorney Clare represents clients in electric and natural gas pipeline matters. She practices before the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission and before the D.C. Public Service Commission. Adrienne has represented OPC in several utility proceedings at the PSC. She has also received numerous awards and commendations for her excellent legal skills. I'm so happy to have you both join us today.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for inviting us, and we're pleased to be here.
Sadly, women are underrepresented in the energy industry. For example, a March 2022 University of California, Berkeley article reports that women make up only 20% of the energy industry's labor force, and even a smaller percentage are corporate executives or hold government positions. However, it does appear that things are changing. In Washington, several influential energy associations are actually headed by women, including the American Public Power Association, the Solar Industries Association, and the Energy Storage Association. My guests are women to watch. They are breaking the glass ceilings, and more important, they are changing the regulatory landscape and providing a path for other young women to follow. Can you each share with us how you achieved your success? Donna, as we all know, the energy industry is male-dominated. When did you decide to take a hammer to the glass ceiling, and what was your game plan?
Thank you very much. Excellent question. I thought about this a little bit, and this is something that I always share with young women in general. It's really finding your passion and what you're committed to. And so when I state that, I've been with the electric utility industry for 14 years. Literally, this April marked my 14th year. And if you had asked me 14 years ago, would I be in the electric utility industry? I would have said no. I said, however, when you think about this, my passion is people, it's service. Prior to this particular role, I worked with the Counsel of the District of Columbia, and I was the policy director at that time. And there was an opportunity that presented itself to me in the utility industry. And one of the things I thought about was I didn't have specialized expertise in that area, but I also felt that I did have knowledge specific to the energy sector, the evolution of policies within that particular arena, and more importantly, how going into that arena could really have an impact as it relates to under-resourced communities, the issues that we were confronting within the energy sector. Deregulation had occurred. We were moving towards issues around climate change. And I took the specialization of my expertise and background in policy and government and was able to segue that into the electric utility industry. And by doing so, I am still yet serving people, serving communities, impacting economic development, impacting career workforce development, and continuing to provide a very vital service. And you mentioned earlier community. I get my passion and energy from people in the community, and this role allows me to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Adrian, tell me, what made you decide to go into the energy field? I can't imagine that given all of the various opportunities in the legal field, that you were dreaming of a career in energy as a child. But I could be wrong.
Sandra, spot on as always. I did not dream of this as a child. I didn't know it existed as a child. I will say that my career in law, so I'll tackle that first and then tell you how I pivoted to doing energy. But I was raised, my father was a lawyer and sort of taught, I have 3 older brothers, and we were all raised that you have to use all of your opportunities, your talents for the greater good. And so for each of us, for the way that we were raised, it was about how are you going to serve your community, do something better to lift people up, use the talents that you have. And so I went into law school mostly because I thought, well, my dad did it and it seemed like something nice to do with myself. I was a bit naive about it and thought, well, I'll just go and do this because it seemed like a nice idea. When I was at GW Law School, our dean of students was a woman named Alfreda Robinson, who is still there. And her husband was an energy attorney. He worked at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And I just sort of followed the path as it went. And I got to know him better. And one day he said to me, why don't you consider clerking for 2 administrative law judges? At the time, I didn't even know what FERC was. I grew up in the DC area. And so I grew up in Prince George's County, lived in DC, still a resident of the district. And at the time thought, well, it will let me stay in the city. And that was all I cared about. I wanted to stay in the city and do something that I thought would be helpful. And so I went to FERC for a year or 2. And then the next thing that sort of motivates me is empowerment. And it troubled me that in the legal profession, what I typically saw were younger attorneys who would spend a few years at a law firm or in any position and then sort of peter out, right? And we didn't get into leadership positions. We didn't get into C-suite positions. We didn't get to positions where we would have an influence. And it was important to me to be in a position where I would have some amount of influence. And like I started, use my power for good. So in my law practice, we represent typically what I call the demand or load side of any issue, which entitles me to do work like OPC on behalf of district residents, where I feel like at least I'm using the talents that I have for the greater good. And as Donna said, it's a critical service. And so being able to help consumers through litigating rate cases and working with the Office of People's Counsel is something that I just find actually, I was going to say necessary, but at least empowering and rewarding.
Thank you, Adrian. And I can attest to the fact that your commitment and passion is reflected in the way you handle our cases. And it's not always easy to represent the consumer advocate, but you do it well. Thank you very much. I'm proud that 3 of the 5 persons who have served as People's Counsel have been women. Let's move to the present. Donna, what, if any, differences do you see in the utility field compared to when you started your career 14 years ago?
One of the major changes that I would just like to highlight within our sector, and I know you understand this so well, when I first came to the industry, we were focused significantly on, and still, because it's central to us, is our infrastructure. And that's ensuring that we're providing safe, reliable service. And then I'm going to bridge this with more emphasis as it relates to clean energy. So when I came into the industry, we were focused on building that infrastructure from a reliability and a resiliency piece, and that was critical. But our work has evolved even more regarding the diverse interests of the communities that we serve. And in the District of Columbia, which is a positive, and I always talk about where we reside, which is unique to some other places, there was significant emphasis on how do we evolve how we deliver our service to our customers. And when I say that, it's going towards solar as well as renewable energy. It's looking at different types of technologies. Right now, we're looking at electric vehicles. How do we decarbonize our grid? And so it's an evolution in that respect. And I do believe that that evolution is really speaking to a younger generation. It's very interesting when you talk about concepts around battery storage, when you talk about concepts around microgrids. And also something that's critical has always been with our industry. When I think about the delivery of service, we have always been a part of the communities that we serve, and that's from supporting communities through philanthropic services. And when I think about our philanthropic services, I'm thinking about how those things connect to our communities from a career development perspective, from a workforce development, because people use that terminology. When it comes to contracting opportunities for our local and diverse business enterprises, and more emphasis on equality as it relates to opportunities as well as access. So in our industry, we continue to ensure that we're providing reliable, resilient service, but also providing various options and opportunities to those that are coming into this space as well. People utilize the concept. They say there's a little bit of disruption that's happening within our particular industry. I think it creates a platform and an opportunity for innovation. And we have to be able to ensure as a utility that we are opening the door for the younger generation to be a part of that, and also expanding those opportunities for individuals who are diverse to be a part of this new platform in serving our communities.
Where is PEPCO with respect to its profile?
We always used to talk about diversity, inclusion, and equity, but we're focusing significantly on also inclusiveness. Because you can have a diverse workforce, but if the people that are part of your workforce does not feel that they are included, then what are you realistically achieving? One of the realities in terms of what we're doing, metrics is so critical and important, because I always say I would love to be at a place when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion where we're not having to measure something, but we're having to be very intentional in ensuring that we are bringing individuals that are reflective of the communities that we serve. We're a regulated entity. We want to ensure that our workforce looks like the people that we actually serve, that our contractors look like the people that we serve. And when we talk about innovation and the evolution that is occurring right now, you don't want the same people around the table making the decisions. Diversity of perspectives, ideas, thoughts are so critical. And you're not going to get that from people who look the same way, come from the same backgrounds. Statistically, companies, corporations, businesses that perform well perform the best when they have a diverse workforce. One of the things that I am really proud to be a part of, because we're talking about women and infrastructure and energy, I am the executive sponsor of an employee resource group. It's the Network of Exelon Women. When I think about yesterday, I was participating on an academy call. We have an academy for young ladies through Exelon, and there are young ladies participating across all of our regions. That is a program to realistically expose young women to careers in STEM and to our industry. One of the things when I think about our industry is one of the big pieces with women is that traditionally, they have not always thought about career opportunities in our area. And when I say that, when you think about the utility industry, you immediately go to poles, wires, infrastructure. However, we are a very diverse corporation. You can come into our industry, communications, legal. You can come into human resources and economists, governmental and external affairs. It runs the gambit. We were one of the first to sign on to the president's legislation around this and the commitment on that initiative. We are ensuring that we're tracking and ensuring that women are moving through our organization at the highest of levels. When I look around the table, I see women and I see diverse women. And one of the things I always stress when we talk about diversity is the fact that when we talk about women, we have to peel back another layer because the experiences of African American women or Black women is not the same as white females. So you see a divide as it relates to how we are progressing. So there has to be a focus on women as well as the various diversity within the cluster of women as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Adrian, tell us a little bit about, one, what the field looks like to you and how it's changed during the course of your career. And I'd also like you to share a little bit about your Total Commitment Women initiative that your firm has started.
Absolutely.
Sounds very interesting.
Thank you. I'd be happy to. It's something we're very proud of. So I'm going to sort of start where you ended in your conversation with Donna, which is about diversity. And I sort of would encapsulate both answers to both of your questions with the word diversity in terms of how the industry has changed in the more than 15 years or so. I've been at this for a bit longer than Donna. In that period of time, both with respect to the industry itself and then with respect to women in energy. So when I started off in my practice, energy was this sort of amorphous product, right? It was a commodity and consumers didn't quite understand where it came from or how they got it. They knew you turn on a switch and there's a delivered product and you get a bill, and it was all inclusive. And that was sort of the way that it worked. As an attorney, I understood there are rates and terms and conditions, and you sort of hope you can understand how this all works, and you hire an accountant or an engineer and hope that you can make sense of it. In the course of my career, all of that has changed and is still changing, as you and Donna said, for the good from my perspective, which means the sources of energy are more broad. Consumers are demanding more information about where their energy comes from. They want clean power. They want, fossil fuels reduced, those sorts of things. And not because the states or local utilities say so, but because consumers are demanding more. And so there's more, I think, transparency and diversity in the sources of our energy. That has in turn led to differences in how it's being delivered, who's delivering the product, whether or not the incumbent utility will be the all-in provider or whether or not you have different choices. And that diversity, from my perspective, the sense of consumer demand or a right to know sort of who's delivering your product and where it's coming from and what that resource is going to be, has translated, I think, into a younger generation of, particularly because of this conversation, women, but a younger generation that is not willing to accept just traditions, and that not willing to accept traditions transcends into what it should look like when you walk into a meeting room. I will tell you, in my law firm, our energy group is 11 people, 11 attorneys. 8 of those are women. That's unheard of when I started practicing. We used to tell a joke that is not funny, but we used to joke that most of us could fit either in one car or in one room because there were so few of us in the profession. And I know you relate to that. It is now at the place where 8 of us are women. And it was intentional in the sense that we said we're going to hire the best possible candidates who fit for our firm. They happen to be women, but the firm has a very strong commitment to diversity. And as Donna said, this is both gender and racial diversity. But our commitment, when you asked about the total commitment to diversity, our total commitment to women is something I'm very proud of. I'm an equity partner in our firm, a former head of our group, and I sit on our firm's management committee. And that's not to toot my own horn. That's a testament to the fact that our firm invests in and commits to the development of women. In our firm, the total commitment, we have a women's initiative that is, each year we choose 10 to 15 women within the firm, attorneys who are at various stages of their career, and they go through a multi-week process. It's like a part training session, part career building, and they learn any number of skills on business development, how to, conduct business, how to handle client relationships. A number of the things that come out of that inform strategic management for our law firm. And that allows us to make sure that we're, as Donna said, sort of walking the walk and talking the talk, to make sure we create an environment that promotes women and wants them to stay. It's not enough to say we can check off every box and we've got each certification you could name. We're, Mansfield Gold certified and WILEF 8 years in a row certified. That's all well and good. We need to see that when women come, they'd like to stay. And that's what our commitment to women does. Our women's initiative has been tremendous in that respect.
Well, both of you women are definitely walking the walk and talking the talk. You epitomize what I would think of as successful women in the energy industry. But let's talk a little more about job opportunities. You both mentioned that your respective places of employment are facilitating and encouraging employment. Where are we with that? What is the hiring, the job opportunities that you are pursuing? Adrian, let's start with you.
Sure. So I'll do first sort of broadly and then whittle it down to energy related, because I realize this is women in energy, not just women in law. So our law firm, we do recruiting at most law schools where we have offices, and we have several. And in St. Louis is our largest. That's where most of our attorneys are. And so in that office, we do recruiting with an emphasis on diversity. In the DC region, we do recruiting at every law school, and we do Howard University as a priority. And my father is a graduate of Howard University Law School, so I try to go to that one personally every single year. Yeah, that's something that we do. But aside from that, we partner with different organizations like the Energy Bar Association that has diversity initiatives to make sure that we make ourselves visible. I host in our office every summer. And you've come to it several years, which I appreciate. But we have a series for attorneys of color and any attorney of color and their interns. And a number of those are women. And it usually is just meant to be a round table to help facilitate helping young people or young lawyers get to know some of us who are already in the field. And we've had a number of sort of mentorships. I was just on the phone the other day with someone who works for one of the FERC commissioners. And he said, I remember coming to that lunch that you had. And if you ever need anything, let us know. And that's something that my firm encourages. That's not, just me. It's something that the firm has said, the more we can keep this pipeline going, it helps all of us. And then we do different types of outreach. I'm a graduate of GW Law School. And so I think it's been 2 weeks ago now, I did a series by invitation, but from one of the women who's there, Donna Atanasio, about careers in energy law. And it wasn't just for women. It was about careers in energy law in general. But it was, again, a chance for me to explain the way to get into this industry. I've had 2 phone calls with people saying, could you give us an internship? We hired an intern, a woman intern, last summer, just to bring her in and let her get some experience in the energy sector.
Donna, you talked about the career opportunities at PEPCO. What's the status of the academy? As you know, it was the result of a settlement agreement in formal case, what was it, 1156, the PEPCO merger. How many people have you graduated? Are women involved in the process?
So thank you. Yes, the DC Infrastructure Academy has just been phenomenal. So we've graduated probably, I would say, right over 100 individuals through the Infrastructure Academy. I would say about 16 to 17 individuals have been women that have come through that program. But I wanted to highlight that there is even more focus as it relates to attracting women to that particular program. And I wanted to highlight, if you have 17 to 16 individuals who are women that have come through that program, they're going to be ambassadors as well, encouraging, and they're doing that, other women to look at career opportunities in that area. So thank you.
Thank you, Donna. You are listening to DC Radio Connect on DC Radio 96.3 HD4. You can also hear us on dcradio.gov and on your favorite podcasts. I am DC People's Counsel, Sandra Mattavous-Frye. Our topic is Women in Energy, and my guests are Donna Cooper, PEPCO Region President, and attorney Adrian Clear, partner with Thompson Corbin Law Firm. Adrian, what is your advice to young women who are interested in following in your footsteps? Are there keys to success?
I would say that there are. First of all, I will tell you what I say to anyone who says something like you just did. Usually it's a younger woman and says, how do I follow in your footsteps or end up like you? And what I always say is, you will hire me someday. That's what I'd like to see. Following in my footsteps is nothing phenomenal. Surpassing me is what I'd love to see. So thank you for that question. I think for me, there's a few things. One, the first thing I tell everyone is you have to have the technical or the substantive expertise. It is not enough, and you will not last long. You can get in a door, but you don't last long if you can't actually have substantive expertise. And so what I say to everyone is, Donna started off by saying, find your passion. If this is not your passion, find something different. It is a very demanding career. And if you don't love it, it's evident in the way that you carry yourself. So with that, the first thing to me is just sort of know your subject area, become as expert as you possibly can. I lean on every single technical expert I can find to say, teach me what I don't know, and maintain that intellectual curiosity. So that's the first thing. The other thing, the sort of softer skills, are to know what you want to do with this career and why you want to do it, and be steadfast in that. So when I was younger, I'm sure we were all raised with, is that saying, eyes on the prize. And so that's what I say to people. If there's something that you want in this career, study it, learn it, stay on top of it. Aside from that, don't let, as a woman and as a racial minority, but as a woman for this conversation, don't let other people's issues become your barriers. And by that, I just mean, once you know what you know and you're expert and you are ready to step into this career, don't let the fact that someone may not react to you the way that you would like them to react, or it may seem like you're the only one in the room and that matters. Don't let that stop you, because you're letting that become your barrier. And so I'm sure we've all, each of the three of us have had instances where we've had to say, okay, I'm just going to not let this be my barrier. And so that's one that I say to people all the time. Don't buy into other people's issues. Just keep trudging forward. And then the last thing I'll say, and this is more often with younger women, I would say it. It's not as much for those of us who've been in it a little longer, but extend yourself beyond your usual group. Networking is critically important. And people will say things to me like, well, how do I network when I don't know anybody? That's the point. You don't have to be a partner in a law firm to network. You can get to know the person sitting next to you in a seminar in law school. You can get to know Donna Cooper, who may be at your church and is influential at Pepco. There are ways to do this. And you have to extend yourself. I will say that every single position I've had has come because I knew someone. It has never come because I blindly applied for something and just got it. And so extending yourself and networking is the other thing that I think is important.
Thank you, Adrienne. We are ready to close out this edition of OPC Radio Connect. I want to thank both Donna Cooper and Adrienne Clare for bringing this discussion of women in energy to the forefront. You both have been phenomenal. This has been a phenomenal discussion. It outperformed my expectations, to say the least. You guys are great. Join us for future podcasts where we cover a variety of issues. You can email us at opc-dc.gov, contact DC People's Counsel through Facebook and Twitter, or you can call us at 727-3071. And sign up for OPC Connection, our monthly newsletter at opc-dc.gov. Until next time, I am People's Counsel Sandra Mattavous-Frye, and you've been listening to OPC Radio Connect on DC Radio. Thank you.
You've been listening to an encore episode of this program. The views and opinions on this program were solely those of the host and their guests and do not express the views or opinions of the DC Office of Cable Television, Film, Music, and Entertainment. For more information about our programs, visit dcradio.gov.